The main part of this webinar is actually taking that data that we created in Infraworks and bringing it into Civil 3D. The three main things that we can bring into Civil are alignments and profiles. So I can create a design road within Infraworks, and when I bring it into Civil 3D, it will automatically become an alignment and will automatically have a proposed profile created for it. And then for all those that need to submit a job 30% complete, I can actually create plan and profile sheets for my new road. If I have a pipe network in there, it'll bring in the pipe network too. But I have the capabilities of, from a conceptual design, create plan and profile sheets that can be opened in Civil 3D and then actually modified. And then finally our FBX or solid models. I like bringing in an FBX model because it ends up being like the overall existing surface or the finished proposed surface, and I can use that model for vehicle tracking. I like driving my road in there, so if I have a two-lane road widening out to 4, can my semi-truck make it through that widening? If my road curves, can my semi-truck still take that corner, and how fast can it take that corner? So Infraworks is a preliminary conceptual design tool. It has a vast tool capabilities. The best is the ability to take a lot of this information to Civil and have it already created. No more does your civil engineer have to recreate the wheel to get back to where Infraworks left off. I have a couple poll questions for you. Just to see where people are at with the software. So we're going to launch our first poll question. And it is, in the past, has your company used 3D models or animations when bidding a new project? Just looking, what have you done when you've been looking at building a new job? Have you thought about ever using 3D animation, storyboards, maybe 3ds Max? It looks like about 25% have voted, 50% now. We're getting up there, and it looks like some are no, some are yes, and actually yes with Infraworks. Okay, so looks like mostly no. Well, maybe now after seeing this webinar, maybe the thought of Infraworks might help you think of a new job, a new proposal that's coming out, and maybe you'll think about using Infraworks to try to bid that job, and maybe you'll end up winning it. So then I actually have one other question on the poll, and that is, what version of Infraworks are you currently using or own, if you know? Infraworks from the suites, which or the standalone version of Infraworks, Infraworks 360 with the modules, and then I don't know what version I have, or I'm not sure, or I don't have. So third one, I do not have either, or I'm not sure which one I have. So it looks like everyone has Infraworks out of the suites. In this webinar, we will actually be demoing the Infraworks 360. I'll mention the tools that are available in the 360 versus the standalone Infraworks, just to give you an idea of the differences. So the first thing is we got to gather data. We're building a project. What I'm going to be working on is in Bloomington by American Eagle Boulevard and 34th Avenue. I can actually use, through Infraworks 360, I can use what's called Model Builder. And Model Builder will go out to the United States, and you zoom into the area that you want, and you pick a bounding box, and you say, get me data. And what this does is it goes out to OpenStreetMaps.com, and it will pull any GIS data, any raster imaging for elevations or aerial imagery, and it will pull it in and it will create a model for you. The Bloomington area, I said create model, and it literally took 3 minutes for it to go out and gather all that information. If you're running just Infraworks from the suites or from the standalone version, you actually have to use what's called the data sources, and you actually have to come in and import that information manually yourself. As you can see, there's 15 different options in here, from 3D models to SketchUp to SQLites to shapefiles to Autodesk SDF files. I did a quick little example off to the right-hand side. I brought in a shapefile for the city of Bloomington, and the first one, the top one, is a shapefile for storm pipe. And what I actually had the capabilities of doing was I was actually able to set the elevation of the pipe based on the column of the shapefile elevations. So now I have my pipe at the proper elevation or the proper cover in Bloomington. The one underneath it is the one for the storm structures, my catch basins, my manholes. And what I did was I actually set an elevation offset, because what I did was I said drape the shapefile over my surface, so now I got the top based on my elevations of my surface. But then I said the elevation offset, and that actually is what the depth is of my manhole structures. And I was actually able to say it's the invert elevation minus the top casting. So it took where I draped it at and then actually subtracted out the elevation, the invert elevation. So now all my structures are actually at the correct depth. So I can actually see, hey, if I try to put a new proposed sanitary line here, I'm going to have to go underneath this storm line, or maybe the storm line is deep enough that maybe this new sanitary line is going to interfere or could possibly clash. Obviously, there's other software that can help with the clash detection, but being able to build a model that is accurate relatively quickly, it's a time saver. So Infraworks 360, it'll do a lot of the information for you relatively quick. If you just have plain Infraworks, you have to manually create everything, which means you have to go out and find that data. In Infraworks 360, you have design roads. In just Infraworks, you have create roads. So here's create roads. It's under the I, the editing pencil, and then roads. Create roads will automatically drape to the surface, whereas design roads, I have a wide variety of design roads. I have highway, arterial, collector, and local. Those will only snap to the surface at the click points, so anytime I add a vertex to it, it'll snap to the surface there, but it'll hold straight grade in between each click. So there is a possibility that I could actually put a road and have it go right through the mountain, and it could actually cut out the mountain, holding the straight grade. Depending on what I pick, I could also say turn it into a tunnel. When you look at the edits of the create road versus the design road, the create road, pretty basic. I can add a vertex, I can remove a vertex, I can split the feature, I can actually convert a create road to a design road. Whereas on the design road, you actually have a brand new dialog box that'll pop up, and right now it's set to edit mode, and it'll actually show me the length of my road, the elevation range, and showing me that I have a grade range of 0.5% to minus 0.5%. So I got a 1% overall. I get a little more information when it comes to the design roads. And within the edits of the design roads, I have geometry. So that's the one that we just saw on the previous slide. Length of roads, elevation range, grade range. But when I'm in the edit mode of geometry, I actually have the ability to add PVIs, add PIs, drag and drop, slide the PIs and PVIs, raise their elevations. I have the capabilities of manipulating the geometry of that design road. Next under the edits are styles. And when I have the capabilities, what do I want my road to look like? Do I want my road to look like, in this case, cobblestone? Do I want it to be bituminous, 2-lane roads, 14-foot lanes with standard curb and gutter, and maybe a 6-foot shoulder, or maybe green space with a sidewalk? Do I want it to look like a boulevard, so I got a center island with some trees in there? Do I want it to look like a highway, so it's 4 lanes divided with a concrete barrier in between? How do I want it to look? That's where you'll adjust it under the Styles tab. And then there's lane forwards and backwards. And basically what this allows me to do is take a 2-lane road and say, you know what, I need to make a bypass lane. And actually, on the lanes forward or lanes backward, actually add a new lane. So if this was active, I would actually get a plus sign here, and I could add 2 lanes, 3 lanes, 4 lanes, whatever I wanted, and pick it. And what it'll do is it'll manipulate my style to add a second or a third or even a 4th lane to the lanes forward. And then it'll tell me the length, and it'll tell me the start station and the end station of that segment when I click on it. Obviously, lanes forward is identical to the lanes backward, so I didn't add that extra screen cap. The next thing that's new is the roadside grading. In the past, in the 2014 version, everything was set with a fixed width. So, and in 2014, it was set with a fixed width of, like, I think 32 feet. So it would go from center line out, and it would be 32 feet. And at 32 feet, it would hold wherever my center line was, or in this case, top back of curb, and it would hold straight grade to the existing grade, 32 feet offset from center line, and then go straight up to top back of curb. Well, obviously, if I'm 5 foot off the ground, that's not that big of a deal. But if I'm 50 feet off the ground, now I'm looking at less than a 1-to-1 slope, maybe a half to 1. That's not that realistic in the real world. So what happened is they actually came out with roadside grading. So now what I can actually say is the grading method, instead of being a fixed width, I can actually say if I'm in a cut slope, I go at a 3-to-1, and if I'm at a fill slope, I also go at a 3-to-1. And in this case, the grading limit is still the same idea up in here. So if I set my grading limit to 100 feet, and after 100 feet, and in this case, it's actually that 100 foot is not from centerline, it's actually from where my style left off, so say top back of curb. From 100 feet out from there, if I still didn't tie into the existing, now it'll actually just drop straight off and have a vertical cliff. So my recommendation on that is to set your grading limit to about 250, 300 feet, something that you know you're going to hit. And if it comes out too steep, or I mean it comes out too wide at 3-to-1, hey, now I'm going to look at changing my slope to 2.5, 2-to-1. So these are the 5 basic edits that happen when you click on a design road: geometry, styles, lanes forward and backwards, and then the roadside grading. When I'm in the geometry tab and I click on my road, if I'm looking at it from straight above in plan view, I get the ability to add a point, recreate profile, add a bridge, then add or delete a drainage network, add some culverts. But if I come in and I rotate my model just enough that I'm almost in an ISO view, when I click on my road, I now get the option of actually adding a PVI. Because when I go into model view or non-plan view, I get different functionality. So I get the ability to add that PVI. which is nice. But then I also have the same abilities of the profile, the bridges, and the drainage networks, among other things. So for that to happen, I have to be in the geometry tab, not styles, not lanes, or not roadside grading, but I have to be in geometry. And then when I click on my road, right click, these are the options I get. One of the nice benefits of Infraworks is the profile view. So under the roads, this is in Infraworks 360, the roads module, the bridge module, and then the drainage module, the one that is slightly off my screen cap here. Those are all part of 360. Those are not, not available when it comes to just plain Infraworks. But if I click on my scale and profile view, and then I pick on a road, it will actually show me the profile view of that road. So I can actually see that I'm going 447 feet at 1.5% downslope. And I got a PVI right here. And I got another PVI here, and I'm coming up at a 12%. If I go into the model and I click on the begin vertical curve section, or in this case actually the end vertical curve section, will actually give me the length. So I can actually adjust my curve length of my PVI, 100 feet, 200 feet. I can adjust what station it begins at. So maybe I want my PVI or my vertical curve begin station to begin at not 9 plus 36, but actually let's have it begin at 9 plus 50. A nice even number. And then I can also adjust the elevation of it. And if I click on the actual PVI grip, I can see what station I'm at, so I can slide it. I can put a new station in. I can't change the grade in or grade out because that is going to be based off of the existing information. So I can't make adjustments to, oh, let's change the grade in to 10% and then have that adjust the end vertical curve section of the previous side, or adjust the begin vertical curve section of the tangent out. I don't have those capabilities yet, but I do have the capability of exporting out this proposed profile and having it come into Civil 3D. And that's where you want to do most of your work anyways, is in a software that's designed for road design, corridors, alignments, and profiles. The lanes forwards and backwards, I came in here and I added a second lane in here, and I plugged in the begin station and end station. This is actually starting at station 0 plus 3 and going to station 2 plus 50. If I wanted to, I could have actually put my start station at 0, 0 and had it go all the way to the beginning of my lane. So it gives me the capabilities of adding additional lanes. So I have a turn lane here coming in. So now I can, this top lane can go straight or turn left, and I actually have a right turn lane. And it's very easy to add additional lanes and then actually to specify a specific start or end station. Nice thing about design roads are intersections. Under the geometry, if I click on an intersection and highlight it, I actually have the capabilities of changing what vehicle it will be typical on that road. Right now, this curb or this intersection is set up for a standard passenger car, but I can actually change that. So in this case, a 30-foot straight truck is the next option, all the way up to a triple trailer semi. And it will adjust all my curb returns so that a triple trailer semi or a passenger car or any vehicle in between can make that corner comfortably. 53-foot semi is the one I typically do, and it will adjust your curb returns to fit. Under the intersection, there's geometry and there's also lane markings. And what I have the capability is saying extend into intersection or add a yield line. And you can see my yield line here, and you can see that the intersection lines have come into the intersection a little bit. And then finally, if you click on one of the curb returns, so you highlight one of the segments, I can actually manually adjust the curb return. So maybe it's a standard passenger car for this intersection, but this northbound lane will be leaving a supermarket, and it knows that you're going to have semis that will be making a right-hand turn here very frequently. The semis will be coming in from another intersection to get to that supermarket. So they know that they only need to adjust this one curb return and not all four for a semi truck. And then when you have it clicked, if you click on the purple grips, I can actually add a turn lane. So I got an acceleration lane here, and I have a deceleration lane here. Great tools with the intersections. I have the capabilities of adding a bridge. So I can click Add Bridge, pick where I want the bridge to start, where I want it to end, and then I can come back in, click on, I call it the end of the scroll because it kind of looks like a scroll for your bridge, and I can actually say, hey, start station 7 plus 26. No, let's go 7 plus 25. And I can manually plug in 7 plus 25. End station 8 plus 81. Hey, 8 plus 80 sounds good to me. So I can, again, just like the lanes, I can plug in information about my bridge. Where do I want it to begin? Where do I want it to end? But the next best thing about the bridge is I can actually go into the bridge summary, and I can actually say show clearance envelope. So if this bridge is going over a walking path, hey, you know what? 16 foot high, that's going to be just fine. But hey, if this bridge is going over a railroad track, 16.4 foot probably isn't going to be tall enough. I think it's 22 feet for a bridge for that will go over a train track where they will carry double stacked cargo containers. But I can actually show my clearance envelope, and I can see the start station where I want it to be at, the end station, the height, the base elevation, and I could skew it so I could actually rotate it a little bit. And I could say, hey, I need to move my bridge column. With design roads and design bridges, I actually have the capabilities of actually moving that column. And so it might be offset, so I could get that clearance envelope to fit with only one column instead of two. So once I've built a design road, I've created an intersection, I've designed my curb returns to fit the way I want it. Now what I want to do is I want to get this into Civil 3D. So what I need to do is I need to import or export out an IMX file. First thing I recommend doing is actually reducing your model extents and only cover the area that is going to be required in Civil 3D. I have an area that goes from Mall of America all the way out to 34th Avenue, and then just over 494. I don't need that area for this one little road that I'm building. So I actually reduce my model extents to only show the area of my roads. So I come in and instead of saying use entire model, I uncheck that and put a bounding box, and I create that bounding box in the area that I need. Now that it's reduced in size, making it easier and quicker to export, I go to the wrench and screwdriver, and then I say export IMX. When I do that, it'll actually say, hey, what do you want to export? And in this case, I'll say entire model instead of polygon. I'll pick the entire model because it's only going to show what I have reduced my model down to. The key on here is you have to know what your target coordinate system is. Right now, my Infraworks is in Hennepin County, US survey foot. That's perfect. And then I got to give it a target file location. And so I just put it on my desktop, and it was called IM export. Simple enough. Next, I want that solid. I want an FBX model. So same thing, definitely reduce your model extents when allowable. So the same concepts there. But now under that wrench and screwdriver tab, instead of export IMX right there, I'm going to export an FBX. Again, whoops, sorry about that. I will use the entire model. The target coordinate system, honestly, it doesn't mean much in here because it won't recognize the coordinate system. Every time you bring in an FBX, it's going to drop the bottom left corner at 0, 0, unless you do a few things. But what I'll normally do is I'll click Use Entire Model. I will still put in the Hennepin County, Minnesota foot as my target coordinate system, because when I do that, it will actually give me the X and the Y, so the northing, the easting offsets of that bottom left corner in relationship to 0. So in my model, my easting is 540,000, whereas my northing is 124,000. So based off of Hennepin County. So I will definitely use entire model, pick the proper coordinate system I'm going to use in civil, and then it doesn't matter if you use extents, model, or user defined here for the origin. Just note your offsets. Write them down. And then finally, target file. I'll take one single file, so it doesn't matter what I bring in, it's all going to be as one big model. Again, I use this model for vehicle tracking. But as you can see, if I use multiple files, it would actually create a separate file for the ground, for buildings, and if there was pipe networks in there, or if there were piers or other things like that, it would create separate files for that. And then the options, export materials and textures, sure. Merge objects with the same textures, sure. Now that I've exported on an IMX and an FBX, now I want to open up Civil 3D and I want to bring these in. So the first thing I want to do is I want to go into my drawing settings and make sure that my drawing is set to Hennepin County US foot. Simple enough. Then I want to go to the Insert tab and actually say Import IMX. From there, it'll actually drop in where I clip my model, and I can see some alignments running through here. But what it will do is if it's a design road, it'll actually create the alignments for me right here. And I can see my alignment, 236, is my design road that I created with a little bridge right there. And then road 237 is this north-south road, so I actually have an intersection right here. So I have an alignment already created, and not only do I have an alignment automatically created, but I also have a proposed profile for 237 already created. So what I can do is I can click on my alignment and actually say create surface profile, and it'll automatically have the design profile added into it, but then I can actually add my existing ground surface into it. So I say add, and then just like Civil 3D, I run through the steps, and now I see my profile view. Here's my proposed with a nice little steep climb because I got a bridge there. I need to get over a pedestrian ramp or a pedestrian sidewalk. But when I click on it, I can actually go into the geometry and I can see my stations. I can see the elevations, I can see my grades in, I can see my grades out. From here, I can make those changes. I can change that PVI station from 6+11 to 6+10, 6+25. Maybe I want to leave it at 6+11.81. But I can change the grades in and the grades out. I have that capability of making those changes in Civil 3D a lot quicker than I can do it in Infraworks. Let the civil engineers do it instead of the visual artists. But definitely get your civil engineer's input so it doesn't look too bad of a roller coaster ride for you. Insert the FBX as a block. That FBX model, you have two different ways of bringing it in. The first one is as a block, and you just basically say import, and it's going to give you the ability to import an FBX. The thing you have to remember is the file units. This is going to have centimeters, and it's going to be set to like 30.35129. Because we exported out our FBX as a model, as Hennepin County US foot, we want to make sure we switch our units, that 1 unit equals 1 unit from the FBX to our civil drawing. Bring in what you want, import the objects, the lights, the cameras, and materials if you want. Obviously there are no lights or cameras in this FBX, but I brought in the materials, I brought in the objects. And then object layers, assign objects 2 layers. New layer, and it would be called Bloomington, because that's what I call my FBX. I could just drop it on the current layer, which is 0, or I could actually drop it on the layer by what material it is. The only difference between inserting it as a block and inserting it as a mesh is by just inserting, unchecking insert file as block. If that's unchecked, it's going to come in as a mesh. But if you insert it as a block, once you say OK here, then you come in and you say insert block, and at the insertion point, this is where you'll plug in those offsets that were listed when you did the FBX export out from Infraworks. So this is where for my X I would plug in the 540,000, and then the Y I'd plug in the 124,000. And if I really wanted to, I could get my Z value really close, and knowing that that area is around 825 for the contours, I could drop my FBX down to an 820, and then I could just slowly move it up a little bit. Again, this is preliminary conceptual. I use it for vehicle tracking, but it's close enough for what I want. And then if you import it as just a mesh file, so you uncheck that insert file as block, you'll actually get the FBX dropped in as a mesh, but the bottom left corner will actually come in at 0, 0. So you will have to move it. Moving it's not that bad, because if you have an intersection, I can just find the intersection, the center line intersection, pick that intersection point and move it to the intersection, or the intersection of my 2 alignments in the alignment of profile. So it's not that bad. I just have to move it about 600,000 feet to get it to the right spot. But going from intersection of 2 lines to intersection of 2 lines, it's not that bad. It's pretty simple to do. It's just one more step if you insert it as a mesh. But the mesh gives me a few more options of how it looks. So my bridge, I can see my bridge, I can see my pier, my columns, and I can actually see the piles that are actually underneath the columns. And then I can see my roads, and I can just see my standard green space. What do I use FBX for? Again, I use it for vehicle tracking. Will my vehicle, a 40-foot straight truck, be able to make it around this corner? I deliberately added a corner for my design road that did not have a PI in it. So it was literally a sharp 90-degree corner. And when I brought my alignment of profile in, it came in as a 90-degree corner. But running an analysis with vehicle tracking, I could see that, hey, this truck's not going to make that corner. Finally, the third thing that you can do in Infraworks is create plan and profile sheets. So I have my design road. I'm going to go to my scale under the design roads module, and I'm going to come in and say, hey, civil 3D drawings. First thing I'm going to do is model road. I'm going to come over and I'm going to select the model, or what design road do I want to use. And then I'll pick the start station and end station, just in case I don't want to do the entire road. Maybe we're going to do this in 3 segments, 3 phases. Create sheets. I want to create layout sheets, P&P sheets. I'm going to check create sheets. It's going to default to, right now it's just defaulting to the Civil Imperial, Plan and Profile, DWT, and there are my options. Pick which one you want, D size 20 scale, D size 40 scale, maybe E size 50 scale. Pick whatever template you have that you have built in Civil 3D for your P&P sheets. Just like Civil, do I want P&P? Do I want plan only? Do I want profile only? What option do you want? I'm going to do P&P. Again, in Civil, number of layouts per new drawing. It could actually create one new drawing for every layout sheet. Well, that's a little overkill. Maybe 10 to 12 in one drawing is good. But I could come in and, so if I wanted 12, I could actually say 12 right there instead of 1. But my roads are small. I don't do major highways. So all layouts in one new drawing, fine for me. So I'll pick that one. All layouts in the model drawing, which will actually then bring the alignment and profile into model space. So either of these two work for me. If I'm going to do an IMX file, then I can just do the second option. If I'm not doing an IMX file, I'll do the third one. Then it's select what surface. Hey, what surface do you want to have in your profile views? I'm going to select the entire surface, which will be my transportation surface. I could define interactively. So I could say, hey, I want to show 600 feet of the surface north of the road, but I only want to show 200 feet south of the road. Or I could actually say offset of the road base, and I could put in an offset of 200 foot. So it will create a buffer of 200 feet on both sides of my road, and it will show that surface for me. Options are limitless. Entire surface, if I did my model extents, that's good for me. If I didn't do model extents, I'd probably put in a buffer of 150, 200 feet. And then finally, it's specify the Civil 3D options. What do I want to do? I want to use my template that we created for this, and I want a target drawing to be called Design Road, and my sheet set manager, I want it to also be called Design Road, and I want it stored on my desktop in an FBX folder. Perfect place to put a drawing is in an FBX folder because no one will ever find it. Coordinate system, again, it's going to come in as Hennepin County US Survey Foot. That's simple. You will create, because I use the model and layouts, here's my alignment in model view. And so you can see it actually came in as a 90-degree bend. I would have to come in and add a PI in here to modify it. But then it came in and created my plan and profile sheet. So I have my plan view and I have my profile view of my road at that station. Sample the layout page, and it created a sheet set manager. So now I could take this drawing and add it, or add more sheets to my project. So this is a great way to start your sheet set manager in Infraworks. And then as the project grows in Civil 3D, you use this sheet set manager to now add your view frame groups. And when you rebuild your P&P sheets, if you choose to go that route, you can add it to that sheet. Finally, we've taken everything from Infraworks into Civil 3D. We've gone and modified everything, and we've tweaked the alignment, we've tweaked the profile. Everything works. The design's been approved. They're built it. Now what we can do is we can build an animation of the project for the general public to see. Maybe we want to take it to the town hall meeting to show them what we're doing. Hey, we're going to build a bridge over here. So now, because of this new road, now people don't have to worry about getting hit by a car. They can go underneath the road and still get to that pond that people like to walk around over lunch. So what I'll do is I'll create what's called a storyboard. I'll go to I call it the monitor, and storyboard creator. It'll open up a storyboard, and what I'll want to do is, the nice thing is when you click on this icon right here, it kind of looks like a curved alignment. You can actually say create from design road. So I can actually click my design road, and it will automatically, this took about 2 seconds, it came out and created I think 24 frames over 18 seconds, and it just followed my design road. I could actually say just add add camera path, and wherever my camera is looking at, or however I'm looking at my model, will be my first keyframe. And then I just move to a different view, hit the plus sign at the end, at the last keyframe, and it will take that snapshot, and it will then take the view from the keyframe 1 to keyframe 2, and it will transition smoothly between those two. And you just keep going, and there's a different handful of paths that you can come in. There's an orbit, and what it'll do is it'll find the center of your model based off of what you're looking at, and it will orbit around it. You can put 360 degrees, and you'll do a circle around your bridge or your building or whatever you're bringing in. I have the capabilities of adding a caption. So through my video, maybe I want to pop up a caption. Or I have the ability to add a new title. So at the start of my video, I want it to say CTC's New Road. And then once my storyboard is done, I have the ability to actually export out the video. So uncompressed Windows Media, DV video, or an MJPEG. My resolutions, aspect, I can say, hey, only export out the first 15 seconds of the video, or maybe the last 10 seconds. I have that capabilities of exporting that out. And here's my video. Started out with a title of New Road. I'm driving along the center line of my design road, and I'm coming up to an intersection. Lo and behold, here's my caption. Hey, new road and old road. Maybe it, and now I'm coming over the bridge. Hey, I added a caption, bridge over walking path. It follows the center line of your road a next distance off the road. That storyboard took me 5 minutes to create. And I put a little note on there. Notice the CTC watermark on there. I added our company logo into the video, so when I play it, it stays. I can put it in any of the 9 locations, top left, top center, top right, middle, bottom, and I can put offsets in there. But it's a way of creating that video and having your company be known for that that video. The watermark is pretty cool. You can set the transparency on it. I can make it look like it's solid. I could make it 90% transparent. Get into the demo really quick. So I'm going to jump into Infraworks. And here's my model of Bloomington. So I want to build a road right in here. So I'm going to go to Roads, Edit, and I'm going to pick one of these 4 type of roads. Depending on the speed limit, depends on what type of road I want. And I'll just quickly come in and say local road. And I will pick sidewalk with green space. Let it catch up. Come on. There we go. And this time I actually made my radius tight enough that it actually put in a curve for me. But this is a design road, and I have those 5 options: geometry, style, lane forward, backwards, roadside grading. So now I have a design road. This road right here is not a design road, it's a create road. This came in from the OpenStreetMaps as just a create road. It came in, it draped on the surface. But I can very quickly click on it and actually say convert to a design road. And if I say convert to design road, it now gives me the intersection capabilities. And now I can pick and choose whatever vehicle I want. I can add a bridge if I want. Add bridge. I can go into my geometry and add a widening. I could add a second lane. For sake of time, I've actually created a couple proposals. And I'm going to show a road that was already completed. I have an intersection. I have the lane widening in here. I have a bridge. There's my column. I can move my column. I didn't show that in my slide, but I can move that column a little bit. Simple as that. And it will make all the adjustments. But what I want to do is I want to export out this road. So the utilities, export IMX, use the entire model, switch this from meters to feet, and we'll put it right on my desktop or in the FBX folder called IMX export, and I will just say export. That quickly, I've exported out an IMX file. It might take a little bit more because I did not reduce my model size, so I will reduce my model size before I do the FBX. We'll let it think. When I was only in my area of my road, it didn't take as long. I think it only took about 10 seconds. But as you saw, my model was a little bit bigger, so this might take a little bit more time. There we go. So maybe I want to reduce my model size. So now instead of using entire model, I'm going to put a bounding box. And I'm going to click from there. And I'm going to go to there. Say OK. And now anytime I export out, I will only get this as my model. So now I'll export out as an FBX. Use the entire model. Make sure I'm on Hennepin County US foot. Here's my offsets. Here's my easting. Here's my northing. So write down that 540,000 plus, 124,000 plus numbers. The origin, extent, model, or user defined doesn't really matter. I haven't found any difference between the two. And I usually go single file, but I do have the capabilities of going multiple files. And I can see the pipelines, the pipes, and the buildings and the grounds. In my previous slide, you saw the slide about the pipe networks. I actually added some storm networks into my model so you could actually see it. And then it's just say IMX export, the location. We'll go single file back and set the location, and you say export. There we go. It exported out a lot quicker than the IMX. File size was a lot smaller. Now if I jump into civil, I mentioned the first thing you need to do is look at your drawing settings and confirm that it's Hennepin County US foot, because that's what I exported everything out at. And I'm going to go in and say home or insert, import IMX. And there is the one that I actually just exported out at 12:49, so 2 minutes ago. I'll actually bring that one in. That way there are no smoke and mirrors. And it's bringing in 3 surfaces. Right now I can see that down by my command line. Let it think. Again, I should have cropped my model before I brought this in. There's my model. If I look in my prospector tab, surfaces, I see the existing ground from Infraworks, the transportation, so the surface that the top surface of my road, and then any proposed ground that I made based off of adding coverage areas or things like that. But there's all my surfaces, alignments. Let me zoom in. Let me find my alignment. Here is my road that I just built. Wait a minute. Looking for my road. I lost my road. Where'd it go? Oh, there it is. See, another good reason to crop your model. But here's my alignment, and it's called alignment 237. Well, if I look at centerline alignments, there's alignment, oops, 237. Is it alphabetical? It is actually numerical. There's 237. I can come in and say select and draw my surface profile of it. There's my proposed profile. I'm going to add existing ground to it. Say draw in profile view, create profile view. There is my existing road or existing ground, and here is my proposed contours. If I go into edit profile geometry and go into the tab, there's my stationing. I can come in and say, hey, not 6 plus 10, 6 plus 0, 0. And I've now made updates to my model. Last thing I have is the ability to bring in well, the FBX. So first thing I want to do is I want to say import, switch it to FBX, and I think my FBX went to my document, so I'll just bring in this one, created this morning. Say open. Change my units from 30.48 to 1 because I exported out as feet. I'm in feet, so it's 1 to 1. If I inserted it as a block, I'll give it a name, 03, and I'm going to put on a layer called 03. So I say OK. Now I'm going to say insert block, and it's part of my drawing. So now all I have to do is find 03. And if I just say insertion point, leave it at 0, that bottom left corner is going to be at 0, 0, 0. But I know that my X is at 281.3. My northing is 124,263.5. And I know my road is at approximately 821 feet off the ground. I say OK. And there is my FBX model right on top of civil. All my line work's down at 0, 0, as it normally should, but there is my FBX. I can then use vehicle tracking to test out this curve, run my vehicle on there. And then the last thing is in Infraworks, if I go back to my design module, scale, civil 3D drawings, select model road, I'm going to pick, there's my road. Start range, I'm going to go 0 to 13 plus 60. I'm going to go 20 scale, plan and profile. I want all layouts in one new drawing. I won't use model this time. Next, I can see I got a buffer on here of 200 feet. I'm going to use the entire surface because it's only going to take what I've clipped. Next, I'm going to put everything in, we're going to call this 2 for the drawing, and the sheet set manager. Again, I need to make sure that I'm in US foot and say generate. Give it some time, a couple seconds to think. And this will take and create plan and profile sheets. While that's thinking, I'll actually see if there's any questions. Oh, it's opening now. Bad thing is it opens up a brand new version of Civil 3D, but now you know there's no smoke and mirrors. I didn't fudge anything. I'm not trying to hide anything. It's opening up a brand new drawing of Civil, and there's my alignment. And if I go to my sheet set, open, there is, whoops, close that down. There is my plan and profile sheet for my road. Because I used a different style, my line didn't show up because I actually had a style that the existing did not show. that's creating alignments and profiles in Infraworks, bringing it into Civil, bringing in solids into Civil from Infraworks, creating plan and profile sheets from Infraworks into Civil. Those capabilities, you can get to 30% complete on a project before you even won the bid. Very simple, very nice tools to use. And then once I'm done, I can actually say output, and I can actually export out an IMX file and take any corridors, pipe networks, surfaces, and bring those into Infraworks and complete the round tripping. So now that I've got I went from propose to design to final product in Infraworks, I can then create a video showing what the finished product will look like with a small animation. Right now, roundabouts are still a little tricky in Infraworks. You do have the capabilities of creating one. It doesn't look good, but there is talk in the near future of taking the roundabout functions from vehicle tracking and civil and being able to drop that in to Infraworks as a roundabout tool. Interchanges, on-ramp, off-ramps, it can be done. It just takes a little time and patience. Knowing your road, you got to click to where the ramp, the off-ramp is going to connect, and then you have to slowly massage the curb return on there, or the PVI, the PI, so it doesn't try to connect to the actual intersection. So interchanges, it's a little bit trickier, but it can be done. It's just a little time consuming. Roundabouts, the new talk is it should be in one of the newer releases, which if you didn't know, Infraworks is set up to be released a new version quarterly. The last release was back on July 2nd or 3rd, I believe. So if they're going quarterly, I mean, you're talking 4th of July, so 7, 8, 9, 10, you're talking October 3rd would be the next quarter. So the potential of a new release should be in the relatively near future. Maybe the roundabouts will be in the next release, maybe release 10 Friday, maybe release next week. We'll let you know as soon as we know.